Today on the show,
all Trump had to do was keep a lid on it for 90 minutes, and he failed miserably. We look at the first big debate, his recently exposed 1995 tax returns, and ahead at the wars to come.
In Alabama, the state's Supreme Court Chief Justice has been suspended for the remainder of his term for thwarting the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage.
In a small southern Illinois town, a local newspaper has issued an apology for offending members of the local police force.
And one of the oldest and foremost breweries turned sellout somehow finally makes its way into our weekly beer lineup.
I'm David Longoria.
I'm Joe Vargas.
And I'm Victor Longoria.
This is the Political Happy Hour.
Hello, my name is Joe, not John.
Oh! Hi, welcome back, Joe.
It's good to be here.
We're glad that you're here and doing the show with us again.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I just had to come back.
Yeah,
We had too much fun.
We're happy you did. I mean, how could we say no?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I tried to, but you wouldn't let me.
Damn it. I'll win you over eventually, Victor.
Eventually. All right, so here's a basic rundown of how the show typically works.
So we pick 3 stories or topics from the past week's political news, national, a state, and a local, from all around the country, and we discuss them over some amazing local craft brews.
One of the original Arizona breweries to start the craft beer movement, Four Peaks Brewing.
Well.
Four Peaks.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, all right. So we should stress that these breweries on our show do not represent or align themselves with the opinions expressed on the show.
That's right. The breweries and beers we drink on the show are chosen by us because they belong to a select group. And if they don't like it, then they can go fuck a Congress of Baboons.
Right up the ass.
Is that what it's called? A Congress of Baboons?
That's what Joe said. I'm going with that.
So
I saw a blurb, but it's probably wrong.
Probably not.
I'm just perpetuating something that's incorrect. I'm just,
We're going to fact check that.
Yeah, we should.
Oh,
and then we'll get back to that.
A Congress of Baboons.
A Congress of Baboons.
I think that's...
Is that accurate?
I think I heard that somewhere.
Yeah. So hopefully it is. Either way, it is what it is. But anyway, let's check the email before we get into it all, shall we?
Emails, yes, of course. So we got an email here from our friend in Portlandia, Oregon.
Oh, Tim.
Mr. Tim.
What's up, Tim?
He would like to hear our thoughts on a SCOTUS. I don't know what that is, but...
SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not where your testicles reside?
That's a scrotum.
Scrotus.
Scrotus. I thought that was a character from Shakespeare play, wasn't it?
It might have
Scrotus and testicles?
It might have been.
All right, so he says, what are your thoughts on SCOTUS, and why hasn't there been more of a prominent topic in the presidential candidates or the Senate campaigns? No one's talking about it, and why?
I agree. I think that's a very valid point. How come it hasn't been more prominently figured in the presidential elections? Because this is the person who's going to pick the next Supreme Court, at least one next Supreme Court justice.
At least one.
At least.
And Ruth Bader Ginsburg is...
Probably.
She's like 1,000 years old.
Yeah, but she's still going strong. Breyer has indicated, or hinted at least, that he is willing to retire after a Democratic president gets elected.
I've talked to several myself. I'm not going to name them now, but they've told me they're old and not feeling good. I'll give you their names later.
Yeah, this is a point that's sort of been glossed over by the mainstream media, if you ask me. I think that they're not talking about it enough, and I think it deserves a lot more attention than what it's getting. I mean, who would Trump pick? You know, not Mark Cuban, for sure.
He came out with like a list of people that he was going to pick when he got the nomination. I don't know who's on it, but he did come up with a
really.
Is this a real list or one of his like?
No, I don't
I'm gonna
think.
Tell you later.
I don't think he actually.
I've got like a whole awesome list.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually put the list together because it's got a lot of conservative people. The only person that I know that he has floated was the guy, his friend who spoke at the RNC, the what's his name? I forget his name. He's the CEO of PayPal. He created PayPal. So, and he came out there and he's like, we should support Trump, and he's out as a homosexual. So I mean, it's just he's the only one that Trump has really put forward as far as putting out somebody for the Supreme Court.
Well, his campaign actually has a page dedicated to this topic. List of potential United States Supreme Court justices. They include Stephen Colleton of Iowa. He's a judge with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. Allison Ide of Colorado is an associate justice of the Colorado Supreme Court. Raymond Grunder of Missouri has been a judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. Thomas Hardiman of Pennsylvania has been a judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit as well. Here's an interesting one that sort of caught my eye because of its topical to some of today's discussion. William Pryor, Jr. of Alabama is a judge for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. David Strass, Diane Sykes, the list goes on and on. I imagine that these are pretty conservative jurists in their own right, and
just based on where they're coming from, which circuit courts they're coming from.
Yeah, totally.
So I mean, no one from the Ninth Circuit, right?
Oh, well, yes, that would never happen.
Or from the Washington D.C. Circuit Court either.
Right. So anyway, no matter. We have one of their more delicious selections that they offer every year, and 'tis the season. So we have here the Pumpkin Porter, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's a delicious porter-style ale with pumpkin and spice flavors in the mash. So I'm going to open it up here, and we'll take a taste, huh?
I love that sound.
It smells good, man. You can already smell the pumpkin goodness.
The pumpkin piness?
The pumpkinness?
The pumpkin noseness?
I mean, it's got a great nose. You can really smell the spice on it. Like a lot of cinnamon, a lot of nutmeg. Oh, it's got a beautiful black color with very little head. Cheers, you guys.
Cheers to you. Right, cheers, John. Welcome back.
Oh, it's Joe now. Thank you. Apparently, I've earned the right to use my name. Thanks.
Man, it's really sweet.
It is very sweet. It's got a lot of...
Oh,
it tastes a lot different than it did last time. Or am
I don't think they ever changed the recipe. Well, they might, since they've sold out. But who knows?
Oh, yeah.
It's got like nice vanilla flavors to it. A little bit of like cocoa nibs I taste. This reminds me of like a delicious like soda. Like a vanilla soda. Like cream soda.
Cream soda or something, yeah.
Mm.
It is delicious. But come on, this bears repeating, guys. Are they sellouts or what? I think they are. I don't think they belong to the craft industry any longer. Granted, Four Peaks were, precisely. Four Peaks were one of my favorite...
Like Stone.
Yes, like breweries for a long time. But they sold out to the man.
Yes, well, it happens.
Okay, so
but my question
let's say we, hypothetically, we're doing this podcast, and let's say, HuffPost Live or another media conglomerate says, hey, we want to buy you guys for $3 billion. Are we sellouts?
We will never sell this show. Do you hear me? You're going to have to take this mic out of my cold, dead hands.
Come on, man. Isn't the point of creating something small to make it larger and make it more like, you know what I mean?
Then why hasn't Sam Adams done it? Why hasn't Sierra Nevada done it?
Sam Adams kind of has.
No, they haven't. No, they're still their own entity. They haven't sold out. Sierra Nevada hasn't sold out. Stone hasn't sold out.
What about Ballast Point? Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. That's right.
Okay.
I went there.
All right.
I had to.
You know what? Okay, fine. I love me some Ballast Point. And Goose Island, for that matter, who's also owned by AB InBev. However,
I had their
Modern
Bourbon
Times?
County barrels.
Modern Times, they haven't sold out to anybody.
Have they?
No, they have not. No,
They're
they
about
have
to.
not.
They will.
Who are they going to sell out to?
Miller.
They're not going to sell out to Miller. Okay, granted, I love me some Ballast Point and some Goose Island. Two breweries we have not yet featured on the show. Why? And let's face it, the only reason we brought Four Peaks in is because somebody complained that we weren't doing autumn beers.
Yeah, they're fucking good, though.
I'm not going to lie, this is delicious.
It is a good craft beer. My question, going back to you then, is this, especially as they've gone from producing their own house craft beer, like, what was it?
Kilt Lifter.
Was it Blue Moon, and what was the other Belgian that was coming out that they were trying to pose as like craft.
I don't know.
brew.
You guys.
Oh, like the big ones, the big.
Yeah, remember there was Blue Moon, and there was the other week that was Shock Top.
And there's Hogarden
I know,
too,
but that's what I'm
which
saying.
is also sold out.
Those were considered what crafty beers as they were called because they were trying to pass them off.
Oh, Shock Top.
And
the guy
now
with the
they-
mohawk.
yeah.
And now they're trying to buy these brews. My question is this: if that gets somebody where they walk up and they see something a little different next to Budweiser or Bud Light on the shelf, because now it's distributed everywhere, and that gets them from point, A, drinking shit, to point B, drinking new stuff, all of a sudden, maybe a few steps down the road, they're at your local craft
Take
pub.
that. Take that,
Maybe
Dave.
then they're supporting local. Maybe then they're drinking local. What's
Take that. Maybe then they're going to the loft and they're watching the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah, drinking a beer, screaming a trade.
Yeah, by the way, you can go to theloft.com/political happy hour to support the show. Okay, but all right, actually, that's a really good point, Joe. If we can introduce people to new styles and new tastes,
Wait, did you say Screaming Atreyu?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it's screaming a tree.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know he didn't yell Atreyu. He was yelling. Atreyu yelled Falcor.
Yeah. So I got them mixed up. I'm old. I don't remember.
Anyway, if we can get people to expand their taste,
God, the nerd Nazi over here. I'm sorry.
totally, dude. Hashtag nerd Nazi.
Man.
Awesome.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
We just watched it this past week.
I'm just saying, you're a nerd
So
Nazi.
what is the exact number of parsecs it takes for the Millennial Falcon to do
It's
the Calvary
14. 14.
Exactly.
No, 14 is the record.
I thought it was under
made
14.
I made it under 14.
So it's 13.1.
I actually think it's 12.
Oh,
No.
is it not?
I think it's 12 parsecs.
Was it?
I think so.
was it?
You don't know?
I do know.
surprised you don't
I'm-
know.
I do know. I'm waiting until after the election, and then I'm going to tell you.
Okay, well, that's
I
very
love it.
Trumpian strategy of you. I like it. It's well played.
I just want to say, if the large conglomerates can expand people's tastes so that they have a better appreciation for craft beers, more power to them. I just do not think that they should be buying up craft breweries and then selling it like it was their own from the beginning. That's what I don't agree with.
Well, why shouldn't they? If they don't change the recipe and nothing changes in the formula, then why not?
Because this isn't... This
You
isn't-
yourself just a few minutes ago said they did. I don't think they changed the recipe. I
So
can rewind
question,
it.
if they didn't change the recipe, it's still made- if they still have Old Man Four Peaks brewing it by hand in the back, even if AB owns it, does that mean it's not craft beer anymore just because somebody else owns it? If there's a badass brewer still
Yeah,
making
just
it?
because Clydesdales are bringing it to the back storeroom.
Well, that's what I'm
just
wondering. Is it
saying,
still made the same way, or are they just, making it in big, giant, 10,000 gallon vats like, Budweiser and Bud Light?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that some of the terms of the agreements that a lot of these craft breweries buy into with the large groups is that they are now able to produce it in a much larger quantity. That being said, I think most of these deals have more to do with the distribution of the beer than the actual beer itself. So, as long as that remains the case, I'm fine with it. I just don't like it. I don't want, like, all of our favorite craft brews to end up with 3 big companies anymore. And I just don't think that's right.
And the
hopefully it never happens. Yeah. Anyway, okay. This is a delicious beer, Four Peaks. We still love you, I guess. We will feature another beer.
I
later
like
on.
it, Four Peaks.
I
Just
still love you,
David-
Four Peaks. You need to make sure the Raj is more readily available in Tucson, please.
The what?
The Raj.
What is that?
Their English style
English style
IPA.
IPA. It's really
fantastic.
Yeah, it's so freaking good.
IPA.
Yeah, but it's an English.
It's an English style, yeah.
It's not
Like
a West.
the shock hop.
I'm so sorry.
Not the East Coast or the West Coast IPAs that are just
IPA Nazi right here, sucker.
I guess
Yeah.
so.
That's right.
English,
of
English IPAs are a little more balanced.
Speaking of Nazis, did you hear about the Filipino president?
I thought you were going to bring up Trump. That's hilarious. No, oh yeah, the guy who was like,
he was like, yeah, let's
said
kill all the drug addicts
and fuck Obama's mom, right? Didn't he say something crazy, derogatory about
Jesus
Obama's
Christ.
mom, and
I don't-
that's why they didn't meet?
No, he called him a son of a bitch. Well, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that
did he?
technically that's
Oh,
calling
I got it.
Obama a
Okay.
bitch. So, okay, yeah, he called him a son of a bitch, and Obama was like, fuck you, we're not meeting anymore.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, we've
Yeah.
We've
We've
spent-
spent enough time. We're
Yes.
at 20 minutes here, folks.
All right.
Let's go.
All
Let's
right.
get to the story.
so
That was
yes,
good. It was good, and that's
So let's talk about this first story, dude. Trump, all he had to do was keep a lid on it
I know.
keep a lip on what?
himself.
Wait, what
For
happened?
90 minutes last week at the debate.
That was the
all
debate?
he had to do. All he had to do was keep it cool, man. For an hour and a half. The man cannot help himself, dude.
Okay, so
I thought he
when
kept
we
it
talk
cool.
about the debate, I think the first 20 minutes, he held his own. And then he shit the bed. He couldn't do it anymore.
He can't help himself.
No.
You want to know what amazes me? Is you just look at him speak, and he looks like a kid in front of a principal, especially once he starts like going on his little tangents. It's like he doesn't fucking know anything.
Yeah.
He just says whatever he can. Like, well, there was a judge, a female judge, who was, 8-9er. He's like fucking Tommy Boy trying to talk to David Spade after playing. It's like, did I hear a 9er in there somewhere?
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck?
Yes. His performance last week was less than stellar, shall we say. And
Not according to the judge report.
Well, what's hilarious about this, in the aftermath of the debate, like the next day everyone is like, he did shitty. And then his response is, I won.
Yeah.
Dude, you have to admire this guy in a way, in a sick and twisted way. Like, he's like the eternal optimist, right?
The thing, though, is that it's the people who are following him, it works. They just, they're not going to look anything up because they just believe, oh, well, it's rigged if he doesn't win.
Yeah.
Case in point.
They were doing this other shit
Okay,
to
that's what I was
mess
just...
with him.
I was just going to bring that up. He incited a lot of violence at his rallies, and there was a lot of people who reacted to that, and they, the biggest one was when the African American protesters were in one of his rallies, and that old guy in the cowboy hat gave that guy the elbow in the face. Stuff like that is bound to happen when he loses this election, and he turns around and he comes to the media and he says, it was stolen from me, they cheated, and you know that he can't admit defeat. He's not going to concede, and there's going to be some serious repercussions. Something bad is going to happen.
But we have yet to see that, though. Like, for instance, okay, I'm not so much talking about the type of people who are want to attend his rallies. I'm not so much talking about this, but like Clinton lambasted him. Clinton wiped the floor with him at this first debate, and she's only up in national polls by 2 or 3%.
Well, that's because Joe's boy is in there and Jill Stein.
No. I don't think.
God damn you! Fuck that guy.
I honestly think that their offset is negligible. I really think that, because even when they're included in polls, she's only up, or he's only up, Trump that is, by the same amount of percentage points. So I think that their contribution, if that's what you want to call it, is negligible. She's like doing everything right. She is like saying all the right things and doing all the right stuff and preparing in all the right ways. She's only up by 2 or 3 points.
Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
It's just the fact that I don't think. First of all, I don't think national polls matter. I don't think they count. You need to do battleground states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Florida. You got to do those type of polls to really see what the outcome of the election is. That being said, I think there are people out there who will vote Republican just because he's Republican.
Yeah, didn't we? We were just talking before the show
earlier. The lady on MSNBC, she was interviewed after the debates, and she said, "I vote for conservative, and if this jackass is leading this mule train, then so be it." And that's
fucking ridiculous.
That's fucking crazy, right? I mean, people. Not only is it crazy that people they often vote against their own self-interest, but just because there's an R by his name, they're going to vote for him, which is fucking crazy. I don't get it.
It just shows you why people need to be educated. I mean, people are so stupid. They see the R or the D and they just follow. You know what I mean?
I got to push back a little bit, Joe. I don't think people are stupid. I think that they're underinformed.
All right, so yes, I apologize. Would you say ignorant instead of stupid?
I'm sorry.
No, I wouldn't. No, because I don't want to. No, I'm not going to place a blanket statement over people who are making what we think are bad decisions and supporting people we don't support just by saying that they're stupid.
No, I don't think. Look, I was talking to a coworker this past week, and I said, if I could just have 5 minutes and sit down with you to realize why. And this person is a Trump supporter. Why are you a Trump supporter? What makes you choose this person over someone else or over Hillary Clinton? And I mean, basically, there was no rationale behind it. Oh, because she's crooked. Because crooked Hillary, or she doesn't have the stamina. So it's little things like that that drive me crazy. If you had a concrete reason behind why you support Donald Trump, fine, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But if you can't, and you're just going to vote for him because there's an R by his name, that drives me crazy.
Well, the thing that's silly is that it doesn't... and the reason I say people are dumb is because it goes beyond just the R.
I think you said stupid.
Stupid, I'm sorry. Ignorant, whatever. Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by David, people are underinformed.
Yes.
Because they either see the R or the D and they just vote, or they see this guy who, he's just laying down bullshit and people just accept it. People don't understand articulate speech on some level. Some people just, I guess, don't understand that Hillary Clinton showed up to debate and Trump is just going to deflect and just make himself sound loud and proud and, because he's loud and proud and proclaims he won, that means, because he's not admitting defeat, that means he won, so that means he's a winner. Yeah. And he talks about, your politicians and these politicians, and people look at him probably as a businessman, but the problem is we can't run a country as business.
You can't. It's not. They don't work.
Like capitalism is a beautiful thing, but there are some things that should not be capitalistic models.
Right.
And
one of them is government.
Yes,
absolutely.
Prisons, education. There are just some things where what's at stake should not have a monetary gain.
I'm glad we can agree on something here.
But I want to get back to. I want to get back to something that both of you touched upon.
What is Aleppo? For 200, Alex?
But I honestly think that. Okay, with respect to underinformed voters, let's educate them. Let's talk about the issues. Let's get them on the right page of history, so to speak, in terms of what they need to know in order to make informed decisions. I think that's really important. And that's the responsibility of both of these campaigns to do it. I honestly think that both of them have really underperformed as far as that goes. I think the Clinton campaign is just as bad, or maybe not quite as bad as the Trump campaign for not taking upon themselves to disseminate facts. But it's really the responsibility of the campaigns and the surrogates and all their supporters to better educate the voting public.
Well, speaking of which, I think Bernie Sanders, our boy Bernie
Bone,
I think that he kind of led that charge. I mean, during the primaries, he went to Liberty University, which is known for its conservatism. And did I say that right?
Conservatism.
That's what I said.
Conservatism or conservatism, either one works.
Tomato.
So he went there, and he was literally preaching to these students, these young conservative students, and saying, "Look, I don't know why you're voting against your own interests. It doesn't make sense. This is what I stand for. Come and join the revolution." And obviously it didn't work because he's not our nominee. But I mean, I think it's cool that he took a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Well, I read a couple of interesting editorials from the HuffPost this last week about how, and I'm going to bring this up. And
Is it talking about taking naps during the workday?
No, it does not. Which I do not. But
she's a big advocate of that, though. Ariana Huffington.
Oh, really?
Taking naps during the workday.
Hell yeah! Bring back the siesta, baby.
That's awesome. I cannot take a nap to save my life. But anyway,
really?
That's why you have a couple of beers on your executive lunch to get a little sleep time.
Well, I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're like Madman, dude. You're like Don Draper, man. You're old school.
Well, I don't know about that, but. Anyway, both of these editorials, and you can read them on the Huffington Post, alluded to the fact that Hillary's ongoing upward or uphill struggle in making any ground or intensifying the gap between her and Trump this electoral season is, I'm going to say it, I'm going to put it out there, it's because she's a woman. Sexism is alive and well in this country.
Here we go again, Joe.
I'm serious.
No, there's no here we go again. It's true, man. If Hillary showed up saying, I know a lot of people, had fucking how many ex-wives, how many kids, she would be so fucking scandal-ridden, and she wouldn't have even made it this far.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of double standards that exist with her, and not only Trump, but past candidates. I know for a fact that in one of these editorials laid out a bunch of facts about previous people in office, very high office, George W. Bush being one of them, who deleted tons and tons and tons of emails, and that was found out after the fact, like top secret confidential emails.
Yeah.
We all know very well about what Colin Powell did, and using a private server himself.
He didn't use a private server. He used a private email. That's different. So if he actually had an email address and he lived at Google, then yes, it would be a private server. But he didn't.
Okay,
so.
fair enough. But, I mean, going back to Joe's point about Trump and Trump having all of these different relationships in the past, it came out that he apparently pressured one of his ex-wives to appear in Playboy. I mean, we write that
I
off.
don't see that as a problem.
That's my point. But it would be a problem if it was Clinton, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Everybody write in. Everybody write in. Hashtag sexist. Because the patriarchy is alive and well, and he's wearing a Bronco shirt.
Because, first of all, no one wants to see Bill Clinton in Playboy. That's disgusting.
Well, that's because he'd be a Playboy. Duh.
That's not the point. I just think that the double standards are abound here, and they're ridiculous, and the only reason that she's not making more... yes, thank you, is because she's a woman. Let's face it.
Yeah.
It's 2016.
And I fucking told you a few years ago.
And things aren't that much different than they were 100 years ago.
Really? 100 years ago?
Yeah, they didn't even have the right
suffrage.
They didn't even have the right to vote. No, I'm not. I don't think that's much of a stretch. Why are women not held to the same fair standards that men are when they want to run for political office?
I agree with that. I agree that they're not held to the same standard. But I don't think it's any different. I don't think it's the same as it was before suffrage. I mean, they didn't even have the right to vote. I mean, come on.
Okay, so save for that difference.
I was going to say, yeah,
it's different.
Well, of course, it's not as bad as 100. There are lots of things.
Maybe that's a stretch.
Sanitation isn't as bad as it was 100 years ago. It doesn't mean it's not still something that we need to refine and work on today.
Why are we,
especially when it comes to interpersonal relations, where something as superficial as whether you have a flatty or a sticky outie should matter. You know what I mean? If you got a little innie or an outie, that should not play anything, play effect at all into, your qualifications, how you're treated. But it is.
I don't know. It doesn't, maybe it just doesn't seem as blatant sexist to me, and you guys are just kind of digging deeper than I am.
It is not, dude.
Man,
it is not subtle. It is not subtle.
Hillary Clinton stood up there stammering and just deflecting and didn't answer a single question.
And was totally unprepared for the biggest debate of her life.
And Trump stood up there and just stately pleaded his case, went over everything with an eloquent and articulate manner. You're telling me that it would be a little bit different. You're telling me if it was a man, if their genders were reversed, the polls wouldn't have changed more?
I don't know. I'm not saying that it's blatantly sexist. I'm not saying that it's not either. I just don't know if that's really what is at the core of it, or if it's more than that. Where it's just like the country is so partisan right now that regardless if it's a man or a woman, whether it was Howard Dean or let's say crazy Uncle Joe Biden who got the Democratic nominee, would it still be the same thing? I mean, what I mean?
Well, I don't know. That's a really good point because we've speculated a lot on this program that, because people have said as much. If it was any other Republican nominee, they would probably be beating Clinton handily. Right. Yeah. However, if it was any other Democratic nominee, and this gets to the question I think you're asking, would he be, and I presume he, be ahead of
don't presume
Trump?
He. If it was Elizabeth Warren, she would be mopping the floor with him, right?
Would she, though?
What baggage does she have that Clinton does? You know what I mean?
That's my point.
The difference is that, Elizabeth Warren has been steadfast in her principles, whereas Clinton is kind of, when you look at Clinton and the way she stands on things, she does say things that come off to any like a typical voter that she's changing her position to try and get those. Look at TPP.
That's the only thing I can think of. Name another one. TPP is the only thing she's changed her stance on.
The college tuition during the primaries with Bernie Sanders. I mean, she changed her stance on college tuition as well. Okay. Remember, she said that she wanted college tuition to be affordable, and then Bernie Sanders came out and said, "No, it shouldn't be affordable. It should be free." And then she switched it to free as well. So I mean,
you don't think that the conservative patriarchy would be all over Elizabeth Warren for claiming to be a Native American? Now?
I don't know.
See what
Probably.
I mean?
But I mean, things, I'm talking about like scandals, like the Native American thing isn't really a scandal, whereas the email thing, although it's a non-scandal, they can form it to be kind of a scandal thing.
Well, then,
you know what I mean?
Then who knows? Maybe we haven't vetted Elizabeth Warren enough. Maybe. If she were to be in this whole fray, there would be things that we didn't even know about that
Possibly.
people would bring up. And why would they bring them up? I argue that they would be brought up because of her gender.
Yeah, but what about like Joe Biden? I mean, wouldn't the same thing?
Joe Biden's not a woman.
I
He's
know,
a man.
but wouldn't the same thing be? He would be just as heavily scrutinized.
I don't know.
As Hillary Clinton is. I mean, like, you know how he likes to touch people, and he's creepy, dude. He's creepy Uncle Joe, right?
I think you're speaking exactly to our point. The fact that nobody's calling him out for that.
Yeah, but don't
He's
you
crazy. If it was a woman,
but don't you think
we would be talking about
if
something
he
different.
was the nominee, don't you think that would be front and center? Like the creepy Uncle Joe?
No.
I
Because
do. I think it would.
How
be.
is that worse than anything that Trump is doing right now? It's not.
No, it's not. But
So then why isn't Trump being held to that standard? That's my whole point. I think if it were crazy Uncle Joe, then we'd be giving him the same pass.
I just don't think it's sexist. I think it's just partisan. I think it's Democrat versus Republican. I really do. They're held to a different standard than Democrats.
I think that's an easy way out of saying that sexism doesn't exist.
No. Sexism certainly does exist. I mean, look at the pay gap. I mean, it's still 70 cents on the dollar for what women earn versus men. I think that it certainly does exist, but I don't think it's on the forefront as much as you think it is. You know what I mean?
Well, I would agree. It's not on the forefront, and it ought to be on the forefront. Why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about this issue.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
You know, I don't know. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just that
No, you're right.
But the thing is,
David's always right. David's always
sexism
right.
was what we're looking at here, not just these two together, but when it comes to sexism, it's not. I mean, it's just society as a general. I mean, there's a sexist just bias as a society
totally.
that trickles up and is affecting. It's not just the man and the woman on the stage. It's also our perception as a society and how she's treated.
Exactly. I mean, when you talk to Hillary Clinton, what do you plan on wearing? What do what kind of suit are you going to wear? Are you going to wear a dress? There's no fucking way they would ask Donald Trump that.
Of course
no
not.
way.
Or any other male candidate.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So,
anyway, I don't know. I
think sexism plays a part in it, but I don't think it's overwhelmingly as much as you might think it is. Maybe I'm just an optimist.
Honestly, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's still a huge issue. I think you're kind of underplaying a little bit. But the problem is that there's so many things that, this just comes down to, at its base root, another form of bias. You know what I mean? There's racism, there's gender bias. You know what I mean? That's the problem, is we're all just divided and looking at these superficial differences.
So, and the division compounds each other, right? Because you mentioned partisan division. Obviously, that's.
I mean, people are going to vote for him, like
that crazy person said. Who cares who's running this crazy train?
It's the 40%.
And wasn't that what she
it is
literally said? Crazy train
or something like that.
Mule train. Yeah, she said if this jackass is leading this mule train,
then I'm right.
Yeah.
What if this jackass is leading? Here's my question to conservatives: what if this jackass is leading the mule train right over the cliff? They're still going to hang on for dear life and yeehaw?
You should ask Mr. Greyhawk next time you have some beers. He's a hardliner on the 40%.
He is, and well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to tap Vincent for his opinion on
Fuck
this.
that guy, man.
He was not bad.
Fuck that guy. Let's talk about some taxes.
Okay, yes. So this just in, literally, several hours ago, the New York Times reported today that in 1995, Donald Trump...
You mean the failing New York Times? Hashtag failing New York Times. Isn't that how Donald Trump...
Oh, are they failing?
Yeah. Well, it's a newspaper, dude. Name any newspaper that's not failing these days.
Good point.
As everybody switches over to the digital media. I mean.
the Tucson Weekly. I guess that's the only one that's not failing.
So they reported that last month they received an anonymous tip which indicated that in 1995 on his income tax statements that Donald Trump lost essentially a little over $900 million in that year.
Oops. Are you sure it's $900 million?
Almost $1 billion with a B dollars in an entire year.
It's not $900,000.
Yes, it's almost $1 billion. Yes.
That's fucking crazy.
Yes.
So hold your pinky up after you say it, don't you?
Essentially, he lost so much money.
His tiny little pinky.
His tiny pinky, his tiny little lips. His braggadocious lips, if you will.
He lost so much money in that year that a income tax loophole basically allowed him, or still allows him, if I understand correctly, to not pay taxes for 18 years because he's allowed to recoup what he lost and then pay on those taxes as they come in, but not until he recoups the entire amount does he have to pay on those taxes? So he essentially has gotten away without paying taxes on that $900 million for the last 15 to 18 years.
Jesus. You want to know what blows my mind? He bragged about it on the debate.
Yeah, he said that makes me
He's like,
smart.
I'm a businessman. That makes me smart. And people fucking eat it up, and they're going to vote for him so we can fucking bend him over and then fuck him in the ass after they vote for him.
I know.
Why do people not realize this?
So he says that infrastructure is crumbling and the United States economy is crumbling, and I'm going to fix it. But he's not going to fix it by paying taxes. So never mind the fact that the infrastructure is falling apart because he can't pay his fair share in income taxes.
No shit.
So, but he's going to fix it in the long run.
How much infrastructure would $1 billion build, do you think?
Not much.
Probably like a block.
No, not that little. I mean,
No, but I mean, when you look at his tax
Maybe
contribution,
like half a bridge.
if it's spread out and distributed, like what would that help? $1 billion?
that we should look into that. And if there are any structural engineers or civic engineers out there, civil engineers out there, then we should write into us.
I realize it's not just like putting up a house at the end of the block, but if this is just one guy doing this, how many other guys are doing this?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
So I don't know that anybody's doing it in this amount of money. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, you got the top 1%. You think that their accountants aren't taking advantage of what the tax laws are?
Well, let's talk about this. Here's the underlying issue that I think maybe is not being addressed as much as it ought to be. Trump has been talking about in his platform about reforming the tax code to have it so that there are less loopholes. I think we should hold as voters, we should hold his feet to the fire and ask him, is this loophole that he took advantage of in 1995 something that he'd be willing to change? So that people don't continue to take advantage of this?
Are you kidding me, dude? Did you see his tax plan? There's no fucking way he would change something like that.
I'm just saying, it's like he says, remember, he goes on and on and on about saying how the system is rigged. Clearly, the system is rigged in his favor.
Yeah, totally.
Is he willing to change how the system is rigged? And he says he's a victim. He plays the victim card all the time. Well, then here's an obvious example of how it's rigged against the 99%. So change that for starters.
I doubt it. I mean, no way. There's no way that's going to change. I mean,
so. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
Just the fact that President Obama made like the Bush tax cuts permanent. I mean, it's another example of how the top 1% is able to get away with everything.
Yeah,
it sucks.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he did this rally,
and people still fucking eat that shit up.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right, man. They
People
eat that shit up and they fucking
eat it up
vote
and they
for
fucking come back for more and they just give it.
So he was in. He was in Pennsylvania. In Mannheim, Pennsylvania last night, when this whole thing sort of broke. It broke late last night.
Mannheim, like the steamroller?
Mannheim steamroller?
Didn't you go see them a few years ago? Like the guitar, Christmas music, fucking hard rock.
It's the orchestra.
Yeah.
TSO to it, not... Electric Light, God damn, I know what you're talking about, but I can't repeat their name. But yeah, they do the
Electric Light Orchestra.
Is it the?
I think so. Anyway, he was in Mannheim. You guys, he was in Mannheim last night, and he was going to read the statement about this that had just sort of come up about his taxes. And it took him 25 minutes to get on point because he went off on all these crazy tangents.
Such as?
Well, indeed.
Is he still talking about the Miss Universe?
No, he is not.
He's moved on from that?
Yeah, he has.
From that, she gained like 80 pounds, he said, right? That's
I don't.
So would you say that there was any sexism involved in that, Victor?
Yes, I would. Absolutely.
Okay.
100% sexism in that one.
So he went on this rant in which he accused Clinton of not being loyal to her husband. He imitated her.
Wait, she was unfaithful.
Yeah, now Trump is saying that Clinton was unfaithful
with Jennifer Flowers.
I don't know the details.
With Monica Lewinsky?
I don't know the details.
Whoa,
but
your mind goes in strange places, my friend.
Saying that she is not loyal to him, he imitated her, like swooning.
Really?
Yeah,
like he did like the handicapped reporter.
Yes.
Oh my god! Dude.
He suggested that she is crazy, saying she should be in prison. He urged his mostly white crowd of supporters to go to polling places in, quote, certain areas on Election Day to, quote, watch the voters there.
Like urban areas? I'm telling you, man, there's going to be a fucking riot after the election because he doesn't win.
It's not going to be after. What's going to happen before? What's going to happen when you got a bunch of fucking asses? asshats with AR-15s who are white, so they're not going to get harassed by the cops. And then you got a boatload of, souls to polls who comes up, fucking old black ladies in the countryside that are trying to get to vote, and these jackasses want to stop them.
Yeah. He also repeatedly complained about having a bum mic at the first presidential debate, and he waxed nostalgic about whether or not he should have done another season of The Apprentice.
I'm telling you, dude, I've brought this up before. I'm bringing it up again. The only reason he ran for president is to create Trump TV. That's the only reason. And he's gotten this far, and he's Robert Redford in The Candidate, dude. I'm telling you. He doesn't know. He didn't think he would get this far. And it's crazy. He only did it to start Trump TV. I'm telling you, dude.
I don't give him that much
Even if
credit.
that is the case, how does he keep going? How does he stammer and deflect? He didn't answer anything.
No, he didn't. You're right.
And next time, what's his Lester? Is that the moderator?
Lester Holt?
Is he going to be the moderator for all of them? Do they change it up?
No, they changed it
I'm
up.
sorry,
And the format...
I'm just getting into this whole heated debate.
The format is also different for the
processing.
next debate, too. It's going to be like a town hall style where they get
They can walk around
Q&A
and shit.
from the audience. That ought to be actually really entertaining.
Honestly, when I was watching that, it's like, where the fuck was that dude's balls? He needs to, sack up and tell
I think he did all right. I think Lester Holt did way better than Matt Lauer did.
I don't know, man. They need to, have, a mute button or just, 2 minutes are up, fuck you, and just shut it off. He's a fucking idiot. It's painful to hear him talk, and if you really want to blow your mind, go read a transcript.
Oh, well.
There's, yes.
Of Mexico, China, Mexico, of braggadocious. He makes no...
Yeah, it's his style of speaking does not read well. That's for sure.
Is that a style? I thought...
I think it is. It's more of...
It's like a third grade style, because that's how Maya talks.
My 12-year-old is more articulate and can communicate better than fucking Trump can.
Yes, and maybe your 12-year-old ought to run against Hillary Clinton, because you'd probably poll just as well.
Probably.
So here's more from the rally in Mannheim, Pennsylvania. He demeaned Trump, demeaned and mocked Sanders himself, saying that he has a much bigger movement than Bernie ever had, and much bigger crowds than Bernie ever had. He accused Sanders supporters of tarnishing his legacy by making a deal with the devil and supporting Clinton. He called him Crazy Bernie at one point.
What is he trying to do? He's not running. I think here's my theory: is he's just like, fuck it, man. I'm not going to win. I'm going to start Trump TV. I'm telling you, man. Trump TV is going to be a thing next year. I'm telling you.
So you're serious? He's just going to throw it and he's not going to win?
Yeah, I don't think he wants to win, dude.
Halfway through his prepared statement, Trump interrupted himself. He interrupts himself. He had a prepared statement, and halfway through it, he took a nearly 20-minute long break to cover a range of topics, including... He reflected on how his movement has the smartest people, the sharpest people, and the most amazing people, quote unquote.
Even though the majority of them are uneducated white people.
Most of them aren't worth the ground they're standing on. Some of the ground that could be fairly wealthy ground, whatever the hell that means. He asked the crowd if they were proud of President Obama, and they answered with a booming no. He told the crowd to get a group of friends together on Election Day, vote, and then go to certain areas and watch the voters there. Quote, this is Trump, I hear too many bad stories and we can't lose an election because of you know what I'm talking about. Unquote. He declared that he won Monday night's debate, even though he had a bum mic, apparently. Maybe that was one of those your mics, Joe, where you cut him off. Lester Holt mic.
That's what we did. That dude, fucking give him his 2 minutes and then just fucking shut him up.
He recounted how the dopes at CNN and phony pundits refused to acknowledge how well he was doing in the primaries. Then we started getting 52%, 58%, 66%, 78%, 82%
of what?
Of winning the primaries by those margins. He said Clinton couldn't fight back trade deals or Russian President Vladimir Putin because she can't make it 15 feet to her car. He claimed that he has a winning temperament while Clinton has a bad temperament. She could be crazy. She could actually be crazy. I could go on like this. This is that's just a taste.
Well, he likes to hear himself speak. That's all there is to it. My question is what kind of psychological evaluation does the presidential candidate go through before he's actually put in office?
None, I would imagine. And dude, this is scary because this guy's questionable at best in terms of his leadership capabilities, but yet people love him.
Well, leadership capabilities aside, because, the fucking Senate and House and all those other fuckers can tie him up forever. We saw that with Obama. So, that's not the issue. My thing is, if he's the ambassador to other countries, what the fuck are they going to think when this dude walks up and he's like, so, I came on a plane, the greatest plane. Let's talk about this trade deal. It's going to be the greatest trade deal. I've got all these workers. And
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Let's just sign an agreement.
It's embarrassing. I mean, not only, politically, nationally, but I think it's embarrassing internationally.
On a world level.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what happens when this ass, if he actually does manage to hammer out an agreement with another nation, comes up and says, oh, here's 60% of what we agreed on.
Yeah.
Sucks to be you. Take it up with, the court. It's like there's no bankruptcy court, right?
International bankruptcy.
You're not just going to go see Judge Judy and say, all right, I'm sorry, China, you owe the U.S., $20,000 because Trump,
no,
didn't
you're
get
right.
enough.
You're right.
That's what people don't realize.
No, I don't understand people's logic. I mean, beforehand, I actually had a debate with an individual who was a good friend who was talking to me about Obama and when he was running against John McCain, and he was talking about an event at his local school board where they didn't want to utilize the funds, or he wanted to get a tax increase so that they could get more money for the schools in his local district. And I'm like, okay, so why is that okay? For you to raise taxes on individuals when it comes to your kid, but when it comes to other people's children, national-wise, you're not able to vote for a progressive movement versus, a conservative one. Why is that all right? So, and he changed his vote. I mean, he actually changed from voting for John McCain to Barack Obama because I was able to convince him otherwise. But I mean,
could you do that with 10 million more people, please? That'd be awesome.
That's what I don't get is why do people vote against their own interests? It doesn't make sense to me. And I had one professor in college tell me the reason why most people vote against their own interests is because they see themselves being that rich and powerful person eventually in their lifetime, and they don't want to lower their taxes because they see themselves getting there when the majority of them will never, ever, 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 ever get there.
The vast majority.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Why can't people realize, look, just pay your tax. Let's try and get a reasonable retirement age and just keep fucking pushing it back and realize, you know what, it's okay just to work, have a family, retire, sit on the rocking porch, play with your grandkids. Why does everybody have to have 20 million fucking houses and, unlimited cars in every fucking garage?
First of all, I don't know what house you're living in where your porch actually rocks, but I understand your point.
Well, it's I got a couple wheels stolen and the blocks fell out, so it kind of teeters now.
A rocking porch.
So we will continue to look at this as we get closer to election day. We're 5 weeks away on Tuesday from election day, so we will continue to watch this, and as well we'll look at the upcoming debates. Because there's two more. There's three more technically because the VP nominees get.
They're doing their debate this week.
Yeah, and who are they? I can't remember their names, but it doesn't matter.
Tim Kaine and
one heartbeat away from the presidency. No big deal. Can't think of who they are.
Joe Biden.
Is Joe Biden Hillary's partner?
No, Tim Kaine and Mike Pence. So that's this week.
Al Gore was a VP, right? CVP.
Yes. So let's. We have a second beer.
Talk about another beer.
Yes, another beer.
Let's do another beer.
Beer numero dos.
All right, so we have our second beer here. This is from Four Peaks Brewing Company. This is their barrel-aged Sirius Black Russian Imperial Stout. So this is actually a strong stout. It comes in at 9.5% ABV, and it is brewed with licorice root and cold brewed or cold pressed Malabar coffee. So, and then it is aged in bourbon barrels. So that adds some oak notes and vanilla and a slight bourbony sort of flavor to it. So let's and they bottle it, which is kind of cool. So let's crack this open, shall we?
Why is that cool? To bottle it.
To bottle, a lot of barrel-aged stuff isn't necessarily bottled. It's, I mean, some people do it. And speaking of the sellouts, we can say that Goose Island does it with their Bourbon County stouts every year.
Yeah, bottle of that, and it was delicious.
Yeah, it is very good. Let's see how this holds up here.
Dude, when Sirius Black was killed, fucking devastating, dude.
It was, yeah, that was not a good moment.
Beatrix, what was her name? Beatrix
Lestrange.
Lestrange,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah.
Man, the Nerd Police, dude. Nerd Police is in full patrol today.
Sirius Black was awesome.
I'm totally lost.
I heard
Harry Potter, man.
Never read the books, never saw the movies.
Dude.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Get out.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. Every time I hear Harry Potter, I just think of 40-year-old virgin and Harry Twatter. And then I just kind of giggle in the back.
Well, here's the Sirius Black.
Yes, the Sirius Black.
R.I.P.
Sorry. Just never got into it.
Oh, good lord.
Oh, man. That one's probably going to need to warm up a little bit, don't you think?
That, yeah, probably. That is delicious. And anything I ever said about Four Peaks earlier, I completely take it back. This is just amazing beer.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, it's really delicious. Again, Four Peaks, we love you, I guess, still.
Joe and I like you. David, not so much.
No, I do. And this is really good. This would go really well with, like, I don't know, like I'm thinking, like, cookies and peanut butter flavored ice cream.
Really?
Yeah.
Peanut butter ice cream.
Like oatmeal cookies.
Dude, how about if you, like, threw a scoop of fucking peanut butter chocolate ice cream into this beer and make it like a beer float?
Beer float?
Nice.
Yep. That would be delicious. Thank you to Four Peaks. We love you guys, I guess.
Please pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Anyway, so let's move in to the last couple stories that we have. So,
for sure. It's only been an hour, but okay.
In Alabama, this is interesting. So this last week, the Supreme Court of the state, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama, Roy Moore, has been suspended from the bench for telling probate judges to defy federal orders regarding gay marriage. So it's the second time, actually, that Chief Justice Moore has been removed from the Chief Justice job for defiance of federal courts, actually. The first time was in 2003, of course, many of you may remember, for refusing to remove a Ten Commandments monument from the state judicial building. So the Alabama Court of the Judiciary issued the order Friday, suspending Moore from the bench for the remainder of his term after a unanimous vote of the 9-member court. So what's really interesting about this is that, well, first of all, he was suspended because he in Alabama they vote for their Supreme Court
for their judges,
right?
Or the justices, rather.
And so because he's in the last part of his term, he can no longer run again. So that's sort of why
there's term limits for him?
Yeah. So that's why he is being suspended for the remainder of his term because he can't run again, rather than being removed from the bench altogether. But I think the interesting thing about this is that the COJ, which was the Court of the Judiciary, who ended up suspending him, said that this has nothing to do with gay marriage. This has nothing to do with the issue that he was sort of defying. This has more the issue of the fact that he was abusing his power as a judge, and he was being unethical in carrying out his duties as a Supreme Court justice, which I think is significant. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter what the issue is. If you act unethically, then that is grounds for removal. And I think that shouldn't be shied away from here. Obviously, the big headline is the fact that he was continuously trying to thwart federal judicial law. But I think the bigger issue, and they stress this, was the fact that this has nothing to do with the social issue, but rather the fact that he acted imprudently.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool that they were able to, regardless of what the issue was, whether it's gay marriage or Second Amendment rights or whatever.
Ten Commandments, right?
Ten Commandments. So whatever the issue may be, regardless of what it is, you have the way that the justice system is set up. If the Supreme Court of the United States says this is the rule and you don't abide by that rule, then fuck you, you're out. I mean, there is a, I guess, for lack of a better word, hierarchy for our judicial system.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the United States Supreme Court came out and said, sorry, man, gay marriage is fine, and these guys aren't going to abide by it. I mean, I think in the South, a lot of states like Mississippi and Alabama were guilty of not enforcing segregation and things like that back in the 1960s as well. So, and those judges were also removed from office too. So.
Absolutely. And the COJ actually released a statement when they decided to remove him, well, or suspend him, I should say. Technically, he's not being removed. And they said, quote, at the outset, this court emphasizes that the case is concerned only with the alleged violations of the canons of judicial ethics. This case is not about whether same-sex marriage should be permitted. Indeed, the court recognizes that a majority of voters in Alabama adopted a constitutional amendment in 2006 banning same-sex marriage.
Which was found unconstitutional, right?
Correct.
So, I mean,
as did a majority of states over the last 15 years. So they do not say that the federal SCOTUS ruling supersedes those, which is suspect. But anyway. But here's interesting. The canons of judicial ethics that Moore was found guilty of violating are the following. That he failed to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary, that he failed to avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all of his activities, and that he failed to respect and comply with the law and failed to conduct himself at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. He failed to avoid conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice that brings the judicial office into disrepute. He failed to perform the duties of his office impartially.
duties.
And then you guys. And then he failed to abstain from public comment about pending proceeding in his own court.
Hey, you guys.
So, not an insubstantial sort of turn of events for Roy Moore. And I think that maybe, hopefully, anyway, Supreme Courts at the state level will think twice about thwarting federal law.
I doubt it.
Well, they'll think twice, but they shouldn't. I mean,
He's probably going to run for a House seat or a Senate seat or something in the near future since he can't run for the Supreme Court anymore.
it's just ridiculous. Why do fucking people do this? Like, when you take this job, you realize that you are just merely a facilitator of what you're told to do through the judicial system, correct?
Right, yeah,
well,
exactly.
yeah,
more
I mean,
or less. I mean,
The law. No, I wouldn't even say the judicial system by and large. I would say just the law. You interpret what the law is.
But if somebody says impartial, he needs to uphold that. How is it that people don't realize this when they take these jobs? That if somebody above you says this is what it is, it has to be this way now.
Because in many places, states and local municipalities alike, you are not required to be a lawyer. You're not required to be a judge. You're not required to have these positions before you can come into certain offices. So part of that is good because it allows for a diverse pool of candidates that can serve on the bench. But to your point, though, it's tricky, right? I mean, you run the risk of having less than qualified people being in very powerful positions.
This is why people on the bench, judges on the bench, rather, more specifically justices and judges, should not be elected officials. They should only be appointed. That's how it should be. And the Founding Fathers saw that as a separate branch of government, and they saw that these people cannot be elected officials and that they should be appointed and that they should have a reasonable background as far as law goes in order to do this type of job. Not to say that he doesn't, but just the simple fact that he is able to get voted in. He was suspended before with the Ten Commandments, and that was for the remainder of that term. He ran again, got reelected, and then the same fucking thing happened. So he got resuspended again. So I mean, judges shouldn't be elected.
So
you can appointed.
Yeah, you can make a lot of arguments about why that is, and why that that judicial appointments or judicial positions should not be political positions or elected positions. But to your point, the Founding Fathers didn't impose that on the states because they felt that states had a certain amount of rights to make laws for themselves.
Right.
So this is a tricky issue considering local governance and home rule. Yeah. It's like, at what point do you just, as the federal government, do you impose so much of these rules and regulations, and at what point do you allow states and local jurisdictions to create their own laws, and it's
Well, I mean,
it's a tough issue.
This has been an issue with gay marriage. You have marijuana now that's being
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next big thing.
It's interesting
and it's really going to come down to who is in power at the federal level to determine to what extent they're going to enforce existing federal laws that in states where state laws that have been passed by the will of the voters, and Colorado is the best example of this, whereby that they do not match or align with federal law. So
no, you're right. Yeah, I agree.
I think local rule is going to be a big thing coming, and the states do it to the cities too. Let's face it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I hate it when the states say we need to have less regulation from the federal government, less oversight from the federal government, but then they turn around and they enforce those type of rules on local municipalities. So, I mean, it's just...
Municipalities?
Shut the fuck up, Joe.
All right. Before
you know what I mean.
Before there are fisticuffs.
We're both
pussies.
We won't be able to do shit.
You guys.
Municipalities.
I wonder if Trump could say it. All right, let's move on to our last story, which is a local story. So, in the small southern Illinois town of Metropolis, of all places, where Clark Kent lives, and Superman, I think. So,
wait. Are you implying that Clark Kent and Superman are the same person? Because they're clearly not.
I'm just saying that
one wears glasses, the other guy doesn't.
Yeah, one has like combed hair.
Yeah, and so I don't understand.
I'm just saying they have never been in the same place at the same time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You make a good point. But
well,
interesting.
Right. So there's municipalities.
Fucking shitballs.
All right. So there's a small newspaper in the small southern Illinois town of Metropolis called the Southern Illinoisian, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please, for those of you from Illinois, correct me if I'm wrong.
From Metropolis.
Right into
Metropolis.
So there was a...
Would it be Metropoli, Illinois?
There was a cartoon.
Metropoli,
Illinois?
We're in Sparta. There was a cartoon that they printed in their local paper, the Southern Illinoisian, which I'm going to try and describe this for you. It basically has a bunch of cops pointing down at a black man who's lying on the ground, and the cops are saying his hands weren't up high enough. And the man is a victim. He's bleeding. They've obviously already shot him. And then in the background, there's a patrol car that says, Tulsa PD, Black Lives Don't Matter. And on the roof of the car, there are tally marks which show, like...
Black people killed. Kind of like a...
More number of kills.
Kind of like a fighter with, number of enemies shot.
Yes, number of kills. Or if you're a linebacker... Like those stickers that they put on your helmet for sacks.
Sacks.
Right, yeah. So, there was a lot of backlash.
I think that's an accurate representation of the police officers in Tulsa.
Or of any of the jurisdictions who have unlawfully, quote unquote, unlawfully killed unarmed black guys.
Murdered, you mean?
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's the thing. This caused an uproar in Metropolis, Illinois.
Unlawfully murdered, or unlawfully... Wait, I just want to hear that again. Unlawfully...
shoot.
Murder.
Unlawfully shoot black people for being black. So, this caused an uproar in Metropolis, but from perhaps an unlikely source, the police force in Metropolis.
I don't think that's an unlikely source.
So the chief of police, Harry Massey, came out and said that words cannot describe the disgust I have for the Southern Illinoisian newspaper for posting this cartoon. Can you imagine Can you image the outrage if I posted a cartoon about the looting, protests, or carnage being brought on some of our cities?
Is this a written statement?
Yes, never. This is a yes. This was an actual.
So he
statement.
Said image.
Yeah,
image.
Yeah.
Can
you never again will I spend a dime on their paper. I will use old ones to perform cleaning chores. Unbelievable. So the actual police force, the chief of police, has come out railing against this paper for issuing this cartoon, And furthermore, the paper has issued an apology for not airing it, but for printing it.
That's the worst part.
Yeah, that's the apology. I could see the police force getting upset. I can see that, but you should not apologize.
First Amendment, freedom of the
Exactly.
press, freedom of the press. Like, why is our police forces getting so bent out of shape from this depiction when, by all intents and purposes, this seems.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
This seems pretty accurate.
It is very accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, people are getting shot, and it's all over the news. And
well, it's not like people. I think.
I'm sorry,
black people,
African Americans.
Yeah.
Yes, I apologize, but well.
So
I've seen a few headlines where others are shot, but yes, black lives are the ones that are all the rage now.
So get this though. Did you really just say black lives are all the rage right now?
I'm just saying, it's all over the headlines. It's crazy. The Hispanics are getting shot. There are other races who are impacted by this.
No, there are, but I mean... Okay.
No, they're the biggest representation. They're the ones who have been the most persecuted,
yes,
singled out on this continent outside of Native Americans.
Black people count for less than 20% of the population.
But they're what's the percentage of the prison population?
But well, I don't know that. That's a good question. However, but according to as it pertains to the issue that we're talking about, black people are less than 20% of the population in this country. Yet they're being overwhelmingly targeted by police forces and killed.
Murdered.
No, I agree.
Because they're black, yes.
Just like the helicopter.
I just want to make that clear.
No, and I agree with you. Like, please, when I say it's all the rage, I'm not trying to belittle it or demean it. I'm glad this is being brought to attention.
But we're not talking about it. That's the problem.
It's crazy. Like, what was the footage of the helicopter? It's like, yep, that's scary.
He's a bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Because he's big and black.
That's what they're referencing. They're referencing the Tulsa shooting.
Yeah, and it's just what?
Well, yeah, you're right.
So, okay, hang on. So, the chief of police of Metropolis goes on to say he's disgusted that it was from this paper, which is supposed to, quote, represent all of us down here. Really?
Isn't that what they were doing?
Since when are the police the victims?
But isn't that what I'm sure they probably had lots of articles about good things police have done, correct? Isn't this representing everybody? Isn't that an article for African Americans?
Probably.
Isn't that a very hypocritical statement by the police force to say, oh, well, I thought you were supposed to represent everybody?
Yes.
They are.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. This is just another instance, of how how things are just so skewed to a certain area.
Talk and who was the NFL player where he kneeled down and the cops got pissed and all of a sudden he's talking with the police chief?
Colin Kaepernick.
No, not Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick and since more players have done it. I can't remember what city it was. I should have been prepared as we...
A little bit of research next time, Joe. Come on.
Do I look like I research? I'm just here to drink beer and be a pain in the ass and apparently take over the website.
And talk about Gary Johnson.
Yes, whom you love, whom you've been on the record. You've gone on the record on this show to say how much you love Gary Johnson.
Yeah, and you wish him and Jill Stein would partner up and have a sex tape.
Actually, that would be kind of nice. And then I would go to the campus with the cocks. Never mind.
But here's the thing, though, guys. Why are we not talking about this? And let me go a little bit further. I had this conversation last night with a really dear friend of mine. Why are our elected leaders at the highest levels, except for maybe Obama, okay? Why isn't the U.S. Senate talking about this? Why isn't the House of Representatives talking about this? Why aren't the governors around the states of the states around the country talking about this? They're not bringing to light this fact that this is an issue. Why are we not having a political conversation about this?
It's poison. It's political poison. You're going to turn voters off by addressing it, and you're not going to get those votes.
But even the most liberal ones won't. If anything else, they're actually going to get voters. So they're not even talking about it, though. But why?
Because anything you say could potentially offend potential voters.
That is such a bullshit excuse. I'm sorry.
True. Yeah, it's true though. Well, I want to talk about this. There's a poll, and we did some projections. So this could offend 10% of people in this area. And
if anything, an election year is the time to talk about it. you know what? Damn the torpedoes. Like, let the chips fall where they may. Like, I'll take my chances if I'm an elected official, especially in a liberal state or a liberal town. And I'll talk about the stuff that's going on because we need to talk about it.
You need
not
somebody who's
because
going to just get up, talk, and just let you know what's going on. You want to know the scary part?
I think that's easier said than done.
And again, I hate to go back to our first story, but that's kind of what Trump does without saying anything. He sounds like he's like doing things and big and blah. He's doing what you're doing, and he's tapping into that anger without actually telling people what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
people need change.
But these are these are important issues, though. This is an important issue. This needs to be brought to light.
No, I agree.
We need to have a dialogue about this at the national level.
Well,
and nobody's doing it. The media's not doing it.
The media does it. That's not true.
Well, no, the media...
the media touches on it. Social media, I think, allows us to really share with those like-minded folks. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that's going to, really delve in depth as far as the root issue of everything. It's just... what can we put in the headline just to, get
grab
white
attention,
people and black people fighting?
Get more clicks.
Exactly. I agree, but I don't agree with something Victor said about how the media talks about it. I think they do, but they do because they latch on to the meatiness of it.
Like the riots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't talk about it like from a political standpoint or a policy standpoint about how this is right or wrong.
Yeah.
Does that fall into the category of federalism, though? Is that why? Is that why your state senator isn't bringing it up, or the U.S. senator isn't bringing it up, rather, because they want it to be dealt with on a state level versus a national level? Or federal?
Maybe, but to your point about the media, the press is not subject to federalism.
No,
But why aren't they talking about it? Why aren't they getting past the populist sentiment and chasing the story, as it were? And why aren't they talking about how this has implications socially, politically, from a policy standpoint?
Because most people don't see it as being relevant until it affects them. You know what I'm saying? This isn't going to affect me what's happening in Tulsa, or this isn't going to affect me what's happening in Charlotte until it's happening in my hometown, and then I'll pay attention to it.
So then you just let the cancer grow until you notice it?
And that's how most people are, right? They don't give a shit, out of sight, out of mind, right?
Oh, jeez.
Well, there's a lot of apathy, and again, this goes back to our argument earlier with Hillary. The problem is there's just bias. There's racism, there's gender bias, there's just too much, separation. Everything is just broken down into its components. Nobody realized that everybody has everything, everything is fluid. We don't have to make everything black and white and draw hard lines.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Everything.
I agree with that, Joe.
Until we can start talking about that, it's not going to trickle up and change everything else.
Well, maybe. You that's a compelling argument, to be honest with you. But even so, why do we have to wait for that to happen to even have a conversation about it? We're not having a conversation about it. People are rioting in the streets. People are fed up with this crap. That's the story. We're not, from a policy-making standpoint, we're not talking about how we should change practices in a practical sense to bring light to the fact that black guys are dying for being black and they're being killed by people that we're supposed to be respecting, who are supposed to know the law, who are supposed to be law-abiding protectors. And they're killing them.
I agree. And that's where I think, especially as the the police force becomes more militarized.
Okay,
there
Joe.
needs to be more education. Like, if you're going to wield an AR-15 and have a badass SWAT team that can go in and, basically do a SEAL raid on a fucking house...
Yeah.
Then there should be more training as far as, psychology, de-escalation.
He hit it right on the nose.
You need to have training where it's more than just how to shoot a gun, how to pull it over. Half the time academies are probably just calisthenics, running a tower, how physically fit you are.
Hang on. Wait a minute.
I know they go over the law on some levels, but it needs to go more into appreciating and being accepting of, psychological...
I think the process for hiring cops is very rigorous in most places, and I respect that. So I have to push back a little bit on that. But yes, we do in some places, probably, we do need to emphasize a little bit more on social justice. What does that look like from a law enforcement standpoint? I agree with you, but I disagree with that.
And I agree with you as well. They do hold them to a higher standard, but on some levels, is it too high a standard? Like, if you have a guy who, has never waited till he was 21 to drink, never fucking smoked a joint in his entire life, can pass a lie detector, and all of a sudden he sees that big black dude that oh man, he might have a joint, he might have this, and it's like he's doing everything bad that I never did wrong. He's a potential threat.
How do you remove?
I'm not saying you need to have, like an ex-felon, but I'm saying why not, like if you get pulled over and probably have like a joint when you're 18 and you try and be a cop when you're 25, you probably won't get it because you have that on your record.
So I want to bring something
but
up.
again,
that,
sorry, I'm probably going off.
No, it's good.
It goes deeper than just the training. I think it's just the mindset that people in the United States have. I mean, recently I saw this report on NPR that said they did a study with teachers, and they were behind like a one-way glass, and they were watching students, and there were 4 students, 1 black boy, 1 black girl, 1 white boy, 1 white girl, and they watched them, and they said, we want you to make sure that you keep an eye on them and bring up, please notate on the computer pad anytime that any student brings up behavior that you think is questionable, that should be addressed, that is not good questioning. And there wasn't going to be any type of bad behavior because these children were coached. But they had focusing technology on these teachers to watch to see where their eye was focusing on, and 87% of the focus was on the little black boy.
Oh my god.
87%. And it didn't matter if the teacher was a white woman, a white man, a black woman, or a black man. They always watched that little black boy to see when he was going to step out of line.
Oh my god.
That's fucked up, man.
I know. That's why I don't embrace anybody. That's why we unfortunately we got to take the hit. Get Hillary in, status quo, and unfortunately, the problem is we live in a society of instant gratification. We think if we show up, get a president, it's going to be better in 4 years. It's not. It's going to start with midterms. It's going to start with, school officials.
That's a really good point.
The problem is this is not going to be a top-down movement. This needs to be a bottom-up movement.
Yes.
But nobody can galvanize people enough, and nobody can get people. That's why you have little pockets of...
And those that do, like
Bernie Sanders,
Howard Dean,
Elizabeth Warren.
They fizz out. They like something happens where they just don't like. It's just like
I love that dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like,
I mean, come on, let's be real. Like Howard Dean shit the bed after the Iowa primary, and then. I mean... Did
he shit the bed with a soundbite, or was he really that bad politically? I honestly don't know. All I remember is the soundbite.
Let's think about it. What just happened this past week with Howard Dean? He came out and he said... Keep in mind, Howard Dean is a medical doctor. He has a license to practice medicine.
Indeed.
And he came out and said... Donald Trump sure is sniffling a lot during the debates. Do you think he's on cocaine? He diagnosed somebody over the fucking TV, dude. That's not okay.
That's Howard Dean being Howard Dean.
But that's not okay. You're giving him a pass.
But question, that's what everybody does, right? When a cop pulls up to a car, he diagnoses it and says, black dude, might be a threat.
Hang on. I'm not giving Howard Dean a pass. Howard Dean sucks. Howard Dean had his chance and he shit the bed. So let's write him off.
No, you're right.
All right.
You're right. But, I mean, as far as, like... The biases, the inherent biases, it goes deeper than just the training.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's inherent bias.
That's where I brought up education. Until you start to educate children that, you know what, if you're fucking black, red, yellow, brown, fucking purple, whatever, if you're a Smurf, it doesn't fucking matter.
That's the point.
Everybody goes home to their wife, everybody goes home to their kids, everybody fucking eats, everybody shits, everybody does the same fucking thing. It's just because you go to a stupid fucking building with a little fucking lowercase t on the front, and this guy goes to a building with a fucking crescent and a star on the front. It doesn't matter. At the base root, we all have the same fucking thing at the end of the day. We want to go home to our wife. We want to kiss our kids. We want to have a kick-ass dinner. And fucking, you know what I mean?
Drink our beer.
Drink our beer and go to work the next day. And that's it. That's when you go to any society, that's what the majority of the population wants to do. The problem is, how do you get that population to get up and vote and start fucking getting these people in?
I think it goes back to my favorite quote by Winston Churchill, when he said that you can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else.
Yeah, totally.
ain't that the fucking truth? Jesus.
All right. Well, we'll continue to follow this, and in the coming weeks, guys, we're going to be doing shows that focus more on the future and where we think things are going. We're going to do an election preview in the coming weeks. We're going to continue to follow the debates. We're going to continue to follow these social stories about injustice and justice, and we'll even bring John back.
Yeah,
for a show.
Joe now.
But anyway,
all right. So the show was conceived, written, produced, and edited by us, but mostly John. I mean Joe, and recorded in Arizona.
The opening theme music is by Electronic.
And the opinions expressed on this show are solely that of our own, unless they are yours.
Our very special thanks to the sellouts of the century, Four Peaks Brewing in Tempe, for today's delicious brews. You guys are total sellouts, but we love you, Joe and I.
Yes,
Joe and I love you,
out
but not
tonight.
but not so much Dave.
All right, Four Peaks, I love you, I guess.
Bring Rush to Tucson.
Please follow the show on Twitter at PolyHappyHour, on Instagram at Political Happy Hour, and the Facebook, and now YouTube.
Yeah, fucking YouTube. Man.
Yes, yes,
know, right?
indeed.
YouTube?
Yes.
So, are we gonna go video? Maybe.
Eventually, I think. But this leads into something else that I think that we've been doing.
Yeah.
Because we've set up.
I don't want to hear about you guys doing stuff.
Well,
Or do I? Anyway, please download, subscribe. Please download, subscribe, share, and rate the show wherever you get your podcast, and support us on Patreon.
yes.
Patreon.com/Political Happy Hour.
For reals.
Wait, you guys just mentioned a website where it's actually /Political Happy Hour?
Well,
it's going to be there?
It's not our website.
So,
I mean, it's run by somebody else.
Yes.
So,
the website. I apologize.
Yeah. So you can go to Patreon and you can become a patron. You can, give us $1 a month, $2 a month to offset the cost of production and beer.
Hey, who was the guy that emailed in, the reverend that was going to pray for us?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember his name. But
If you're out there, that 10% everybody gives you from their salary, just give us like 2 off the top. You really don't need that much, just so you know.
yeah, we'll even send you a tote bag.
Or anybody out there who's listening us, you can just give us 10% of your income too. We'll even start wearing funny hats and robes on TV if I
Absolutely.
All right. You can always email the show at politicalhappyhour@gmail.com. You can send us stories. You can send us your feedback. You can send us your hate mail. You can tell David to fuck off. Whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. It's all fine.
Fine. Nerd Nazi.
Can I just add that all hate mail for John should be sent in, and all love mail for Joe should be.
You've been listening to the Political Happy Hour, a production of Longoria Media. We approve this podcast.
I've never spent much time in school, but I taught ladies plenty. It's true, I hire my body out for pay. Hey, hey, I've gotten burned over Cheryl Teague's, blown up for Raquel Welch. But when I wind up in the hay, it's only hay. Hey, hey, I might jump an open drawbridge or Tarzan from a vine. 'Cause I'm the unknown stuntman that makes Eastwood look so fine.
Have you guys watched what's it called, Nick Cage on the Netflix yet?
No, I need to resubscribe to Netflix.
You know what I need to bring up next week?
Oh my god,
Stranger Things. That show sucks.
man, fuck you! It
That
does not
show
suck.
sucks. It is horrible.
It is great.
No.
It is a masterpiece of.
It is terrible. That show is horrible.
How many episodes did you watch?
5.
No, you didn't.
Yes, it's terrible.
Stranger Things is amazing. 11 is amazing. Have you watched Stranger Things?
I've only seen like the first 2 episodes.
And
But
it's
I
great.
liked it.
Yeah, it was good, right?
I think it's shitty.
It's
I
got
think it's terrible.
It's got the nostalgia of the 80s. It's like the kids are in a Spielberg movie.
Who fucking pissed in your Cheerios when you were a kid in the 80s?
It is
What
so.
happened?
It is so like it is stuck in the nostalgia that it aims to present. That it it's not paying attention to plot. It takes away from the plot. The plot sucks.
dude, the plot is amazing. Are you kidding?
It's
oh my
terrible.
God.
And the acting is horrible.
Oh my God.
It is terrible.
You thought we were going to go to fisticuffs. Dude, I want to see the Longoria brothers.
Next week we must talk about Stranger Things.
Stranger Things? All right. Well, I'll make sure and make a note of it. But it is great. Winona Ryder kind of goes off the deep
Oh
end,
my
for
God.
sure.
That is,
but it's
she's
good.
the worst.
What did Brooke say about it?
She likes it.
Yeah. Because she's smart. And you're dumb. So fuck you.